Welcome to another episode of Go With Your Palate. We are going to be wetting your palate right now. You got me, Joe Wagner, your host, along with co-host Chris Fat Mario Rubio. We've got a very special guest today. We've got Liz Thach. She's a master of wine. She is an educator, professor at Sonoma State. And her story is absolutely amazing. Her journey through wine to be at the top level, the first female master of wine on the West Coast. And we get to talk deeply about some stuff I wasn't expecting. Not only are you farming your own grapes, making your own wine, you're also trying to dissect people's palates and the individuality that comes with it.
Very cosmopolitan. She's been to 78 countries. We get to hear a lot about not what's only going on in our neck of the woods of the wine industry, but also around the world.
Enjoy the show.
I tried your Ella one at a really great restaurant in Idaho Falls.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you spend a lot of time in Idaho?
Well, I since I was raised there, sort of Idaho, New Mexico, I go back every once in a while. So I was there this year for the Idaho wine competition.
God, it's such a beautiful state.
Yeah,
There's so much to do.
Very pretty, yeah.
And we have a number of people from our company that are actually moving to Idaho.
Yeah, a lot of people are moving to Idaho. They say it's a great place to raise a family, which is true.
Yeah.
It's a nice place to grow up.
Lots of outdoor stuff. I think people like the
Four seasons.
The tax code. Yeah.
In the tax code. And the wine scene is vibrant, especially around Boise. The wineries were packed, the tasting rooms were packed.
Do you think that is due to the amount of coastal inhabitants moving to Boise?
Maybe.
Like taking that culture and bringing it inland?
Maybe, but a lot of the Idaho farmers who used to be like doing wheat or orchards or something are switching to grapes. And so they're farmers who are switching to grapes, sort of like we had happen here in California too. And then they're starting wineries.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I could tell your influence. You know, she's a professor. She's a master of wine. I mean, this is a big deal for us.
Yeah. Well, let's do the introduction. Yeah. So, welcome to Go With Your Palate. Thank you for being here. And so we have Liz Thach, Master of Wine, the first female Master of Wine on the West Coast, as I understand. Also a professor, as Chris mentioned.
Yes.
And the president of the Wine Council?
Wine Market Council.
Okay. Great. Well, we would love to just get started and hear a bit about your origin story. How did you grew up in, you said Idaho and New Mexico.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What was your first experience with wine?
It wasn't until I came to college in California.
Okay.
So, but I should say I was born in California, but at age 3 we moved to Idaho, New Mexico. So my father was a biologist, so we lived out on wildlife refuges in both states. So there really wasn't a lot of wine out there. And so when I came back to college in the Bay Area, I had a friend who brought me up to Napa Valley on my birthday. And at that time, it was free to go wine tasting in Napa Valley, and we just had a blast, and I fell in love with wine. Yeah. I still remember I was standing there. I was at Behringer, and I was standing there, in that big old beautiful house there with a glass of, I think we were drinking like that Chenin Blanc. It was a sweeter white wine because that was sort of popular in Napa back in those days. We won't say how long ago that was, but anyway.
I was going to ask, but if you don't want to say, that's all right.
Yeah, there wasn't as much Cab then. There was Cab, but there was a lot of really great, Rieslings and Chenin Blanc, and I'm just trying to think, some, light fruity Moscatos, Malvasias, and stuff like that back then. And there were all these people around, and the vineyards were all green and verdant. And I'm holding this glass of wine. I'm with some great friends, and I was just like, this is the life. This is what I want to learn more about. And so it just sort of became a passion at that point.
So that was the spark.
That was the spark.
And yeah, Napa. God, I remember even when I was younger. My grandfather thought that Riesling was going to be the main varietal that he focused on, and quickly realized that Riesling and Pinot Noir did not grow well here in Napa, so Cabernet became king over time. But I still remember like Sylvaner.
Yeah, there were lots of white fruity wines back then. And keep in mind, a lot of German immigrants came into Napa too originally in the 1850s, and they planted a lot of those grapes.
That's it. It was first the Germans and then the Italians.
Uh-huh.
So the Germans had the whites pretty much on point.
And the Italians brought the Malvasia, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got to give the Italians the credit.
I know.
Yeah, that's right. You're Italian, aren't you?
I'm glad you put that in there.
He pretends to be Italian. He's, kind of Italian. Do you even know one Italian word besides wop?
Grazie.
Prego.
Prego. Ciao. Ciao, Bella.
Well, so I would love to just dig in a little bit about one of the points you just made, because I think a lot of people don't know that wine tasting used to be free. So, yeah, I mean, why can't we bring that back? I mean, I'm hearing stories of other producers here that are really DTC focused, and they're tasting room focused, and the traffic is down right now. The industry is down right now, but overall, I think that there's such a cost barrier to entry to get new consumers in, and it's like nobody got the memo in Napa, and it's like you want to stay here, $500 for a room for not even a nice place. You're gonna go out to dinner, you're gonna spend 80 to 100 plus a head, and then your tasting fees are absurd. Like, I mean, I want to start seeing people go back to like, come in and these are the wines you can try for free, and then you want to go to your reserve list and whatever else. I mean, do you have any opinion on that?
Oh, yes. Having taught for, 23 years at Sonoma State, I taught a wine business for undergrads and wine MBAs. And a lot of my young students, age 21, 22, they had a hard time, affording going to wine tasting. And so that's one of the hot issues with me. I do understand, though, the producer's viewpoint. It's expensive to buy grapes in Napa Valley, to make wine in Napa Valley, taxes, real estate. I mean, it costs a lot. And so they can't necessarily give the wine away for free. But there's got to be some way to help, young adults who want to learn about wine, taste wine without having to spend, $60 per winery to taste, And so one of the solutions I have is sort of what they're doing in Bordeaux. I'm sure you've been to Bordeaux.
I have, but not for
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Okay, well, there's this really cool bar in downtown Bordeaux called Bar de la Vigne, and it's supported by the wineries. And you can go in and taste a little sample of Bordeaux for like €2. And they have all the different types. And then there's somebody there who tells you about all the regions. It's sort of like a welcome center in
Okay.
a way. And it's open till 11 o'clock at night. A lot of young people hang out there. You can get little bites of food for like €5. And it's just a really happy place with a lot of different wines that aren't that expensive. And then you can decide, oh, I really like this wine, so I'm going to now go visit that winery, that type of thing.
Yeah, I like Saint Emilion, so
Yeah.
now I'm gonna
Yeah.
just open that
Yeah,
opportunity up
just
for
a
somebody's
little.
mind.
I sometimes call it thimble tasting. If we could do thimble tastings, just a small little taste, so people would understand it. That could be less expensive. And I know now in downtown Napa we've got lots of tasting rooms open, but they're still sort of expensive
Yeah.
to go to.
Yeah. Well, we may be retooling our tasting room a little bit in regards to that. I do like that idea, though, the thimble tasting.
Thimble tasting, just
Yeah.
the little teeny ones.
And
Yeah.
do you think Napa in particular, because it is kind of the pinnacle of wine tourism and the highest cost, I think, in the U.S. at least, do you think that we are looking at a retooling of, I mean, so back to your earlier point of the cost to produce wine here, buy land, farm, all that, and being that is part of the business model going into, say, I'm running all of my wine through sales, most of it being DTC and through the tasting room, so their margins are higher. The retooling of that, I mean, that's not an overnight thing, but I do think that something needs to happen. I'm just not sure what to get people to
Bring in-
enjoy it and come
yeah.
come here.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is the first time I've seen in, I don't know, 10 years, signs along Highway 29 saying drop-ins welcome. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and that didn't used to be there a few years ago.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic. So, so wine tourism is down. But there's some wineries that are doing good. We were talking about this yesterday. Still there was a new report. 55% of wine businesses in the United States are doing well. They're profitable. They've met all their goals, and things are great for them. And then there's others that, of course, are struggling right now. So it's sort of a tale of two wine cities.
Yeah, I definitely see that too. And I am concerned that a lot of the independents, some of the smaller guys, are going to be struggling through this. I think interest rates were difficult for them, but the younger consumer kind of still focusing on other products, whether it's THC, spirits, seltzers as well. And we'll have to get into the Taylor Swift idea in a minute here. But also, there's just not a lot of, people don't have a lot of disposable income right now. They're strapped, and I think during COVID it was like, oh, we all had,
Exactly.
we were kind of sitting there. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to buy this bottle because I'm going to go home and enjoy it. I'll spend a little more. I'm not going out to eat, at a nice restaurant. So you saw that, and that really tapered off pretty quick. And now we're sitting here with this kind of, when is this retooling? When is this kind of going to get back into action? So
Exactly.
Taylor Swift, for the Swifties out there.
I'm the problem. It's me.
So you did a little study on how many times she has referenced wine in her songs. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, actually, it's somebody else who actually did the study. But yeah, so I wrote an article on it in
Okay.
Forbes. But yeah, 19 times. There's the answer right there on the screen. And so it's amazing because somebody actually analyzed how many times she mentioned beer, spirits, and wine wins in Taylor Swift songs. And, there's people out there who have all these videos on TikTok and YouTube about how, Taylor's drinking this brand, so let's go buy it and let's try it. And so mainly Taylor says she likes white wine. She likes Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Grigio. And guess what wines are selling really well in the market right now?
Yep.
Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot
They're-
Grigio. Yeah.
They are on the upswing, and I see that Sancerre is in there too.
Oh, she loves Sancerre. Of course, that's Sauvignon Blanc,
Yeah.
And so people have been going out. Sancerre sales are up in the U.S. market.
I'm drinking more of it now. I'm not a Swiftie, but I'm drinking more Sancerre than I ever have. So
Yeah.
her and I got something in common.
Yeah. I say bravo, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Do you follow Taylor Swift?
I don't.
Okay.
You should look at some of her song
just-
lyrics now.
I definitely will now.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, so I think, and Art, you may be able to fact check me on this, but I believe she's up to about 285 million followers, something like that on Instagram.
Is that a lot?
Yes, you're close, Joe.
Joe-
Sorry, we'll get to Joe's gonna get there.
Joe, you need to get her some of your Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
I should. I mean, God, I wonder what the value of that would be. Her endorsing a brand. I mean,
Well, we're seeing the
She
impact.
she
That's
doesn't
very
necessarily say buy this brand.
Yeah.
She's just drinking.
Yeah.
The bottle will be on the counter in her kitchen, and people will zoom in on it. Oh, what is that? What is that?
and then post it on
Yeah,
TikTok.
but,
Yeah.
I mean, do we think there's like some product placement involved?
I
in
don't
this
know.
process?
It
I feel
seemed
like that's
pretty
a natural way now.
How hard would it be? Imagine that's your life. Every single thing you wear, everything you eat, everywhere you go is viewed as an endorsement. Like, so
That's how I feel in Napa Valley.
but I mean, like, could you imagine, like, you'd have to have a whole team that's like, call up, be like, hey, Taylor's thinking about having a Sancerre. We were thinking about your wine, but it's going to cost you $50,000. You can tell me right now if you want to do that.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you. So right here, is it okay? So she's number 4. Oh my gosh! Wait.
What is this on, Art?
I don't.
This is all social?
Is this all combined social art?
Yes.
Okay. So I still believe it's around 285 million for Instagram, but they're going to be incorporating. I don't know if you can find out what it's just Instagram alone, but I mean, I think it said combined. She had like.
So yeah, God, soccer players are pretty popular, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
Selena Gomez.
Well,
yeah.
Selena Gomez is the GOAT, I guess, of Instagram platform. I think. I
Really?
think she's the highest. No, where's the Ariana Grande? Art, my main man. Who's the highest? But anyways, I think we could agree, right? So,
You were
but that
close.
impact, there we go.
There you go,
Yeah, thank you.
284.
Yeah, I was going to say.
283 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhat close. Okay, yeah, just off by a little bit. But still, that impact. I mean, this is really interesting. What an interesting conversation to be having about this kind of thing. That
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
she
That's
could
the
be-
world we live in now, though.
It
That's,
is.
yeah.
It is. We just finished at Wine Market Council a big research project, shopping along with young consumers, young adults. And they would go to grocery stores, restaurants, bars, stuff, and talk about what wine they wanted to buy. And one of their suggestions was, especially for the Hispanic consumers, we need to have some Hispanic stars like Selena have a wine, and that would help. That would
Yeah.
help with wine sales for his young adult Hispanic Hispanic segment.
So I think that is the natural progression. I think next, because you've got second, third, fourth generation Hispanic people in our culture that are just part of the fabric of our society now, and you're seeing the elevation of, say, Mexican cuisine to a level that is like just it's up there with, like, your Michelin. You could do a Michelin star
Definitely.
Mexican restaurant now. And you're seeing that wine pairs better. I always tell people this. I'm like, go get street tacos, chill a bottle of Pinot down,
Yeah.
and it's way better than a Corona.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that migration around, like, the U.S., where predominantly the Mexican culture is starting to move towards wine. And I think part of it is the Spanish background, and they have a ton of history in Mexico with wine too. I think actually the oldest winery in North America is in the Valle de Parras.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a great accent. Really
Yeah, that
proud
was
of you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I
As
visited.
as a fellow Mexican, I'm also half Mexican.
Oh, okay.
I
you just that's very
Art,
useful.
no, dude, I am though, okay. That's review.
Art's legit.
I'm always
Art's
promoting
legit
myself.
Mexican descent. You just said you're Italian, and now you say you're Mexican. What are you?
I gave you a compliment on your accent, okay, as a fellow Mexican. But go ahead, please. I digress.
No, so
Yeah.
so one interesting thing. So I've always loved Albariño, and so I got a call from I won't mention his name, but a retailer down in Southern California, and we were just chatting, and he's like, "I'm really seeing an increase, like, along in Southern California in our stores for demand in Albariño." And he's like, "Do you guys have any?" And I was like, "Oh, we bring in like 15 tons or so, like not a huge amount, but like enough where." I told him, like, we could do a little trial and see, and so that kind of turned into talking to a few other people in the area or the southern border, really. So the way that he saw it, he's always in stores and always seeing who's picking up what and whatever else. And so he mentioned that it was predominantly younger Hispanic women that were going towards
There you
Albariño.
go.
So it's kind of like, this is not my mom's wine, it's not
Right.
Chardonnay, it's not Sauvignon Blanc. This is cool. It reflects some of my culture, my history. Being kind of a Spanish varietal. And so we went ahead and launched it just this year down in Southern California through Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Great. How's it doing?
It literally just got out in the last month.
All
So
right.
I'm excited
Excellent.
to see
I think it will be.
where it goes.
Albariño is one of the grapes that we were recommending at Unified a couple of years ago. I was on a panel on grapes of the future to plant because it's delicious. It's actually more drought tolerant. It does better in heat.
Yeah.
And it pairs beautifully with lots of cuisines. In fact, like I agree. I think like fish tacos and Albariño are a wonderful combination. And so yeah, I think that's a great one. Chenin Blanc's another one. They're
love
recommending
Chenin.
for the future more Chenin.
Yeah.
Tempranillo. Tempranillo's another one. Sales are doing pretty decent in Grenache.
Grenache, I hope Grenache has its day in the sunshine.
Yeah.
Because it is such a beautiful variety.
And it can do so many things.
And I was going to say, all the varieties you just mentioned, not only are they drought tolerant, but they have the ability to grow well in an array of different areas. So you can have great cool climate Grenache and great hot climate Grenache. Same thing with Albariño.
Yeah.
Whereas, Pinot Noir does not do well in hot climates. So I think that there is a big future for those.
So,
Yeah.
And you've heard now that Mexican cuisine has surpassed Italian cuisine as the number one most
I'm kind of torn here.
as the number one most popular cuisine in America. Yeah.
I did not hear that.
Yep.
Well, about damn
So-
time. That's good. I'm down for that.
Well, yeah, and again, I think a lot of the nice sort of lemon lime notes that you pick up on Albariño or Sauvignon Blanc or whatever sort of emulate someone like lime and Tecate or something like that, and so you get that nice refreshment from them. But also chillable reds, like you mentioned, your Pinot chilled down.
Something with low tannin, chill down.
Yeah, well, it's National Hispanic Heritage Month, so I interviewed MAVA yesterday, Mexican American Vintners Association, and they're giving me a bunch of pairing recipes for wine and food. But the one that sounded delicious is pairing the Aldalina. I was talking with the owner of that Aldalina or Cabernet Sauvignon, which is Fountain Grove appellation over in Sonoma County, with chicken and mole sauce. Doesn't that sound good?
Yeah.
does sound good.
Are they
know.
throwing some ants on there?
Well, no, yeah, okay, we're going to talk about
Step by
the
step,
mole.
Chris.
No,
Step by
she said the
step.
mole.
No, I know mole. No,
we-
they didn't include ants with their recipe.
okay.
And it wasn't, as she said, it's not a terribly spicy mole, but it just gives a nice texture. And, so it's the Cabernet is, and it's an aged cab, just goes beautifully with it.
I'll have to try
That's
that.
awesome.
So Fountain Grove, and it's a ripe style, or is it a little more
No,
restrained?
it's more restrained.
Okay.
It's got mountain tannins because Fountain Grove ABA, it's a small ABA. It's one of the newer ones in Sonoma County. And it's not very big.
Yeah.
And they just happen to have their winery there. And her father planted like 40 acres of vines there a long time ago. And so I really like Fountain Grove Cab. It's hard to find because there's not that much of it. But it's more lean, restrained, maybe more like Mount Beaterish kind
Okay.
of
Yeah.
Cabernet, that kind of profile.
A little more classically driven.
Classic, beautiful acidity. Yeah, elegant,
Right.
an elegant Cabernet.
I'm going to have to try it. I actually don't think that I've had a single Fountain Grove cab.
Well, there's not many.
Yeah,
you have
now
to seek
I'll
them
have
out.
to write that on the list.
Yeah.
Great. Well, so we were getting into your origin story. So
know.
Behringer drinking a slightly off dry wine and just enjoying the beauty of Napa Valley when it was purely really more of an agrarian community.
It was. Mhm.
And then you decided to just follow that path. How did you migrate from that moment to becoming a master of wine?
Well, it took a while. It took a while. Yeah. So then my husband and I moved to Texas. We lived in West Texas for 2 years and then Houston for 10 years. He's a petroleum engineer, and I was working for Texas Instruments, Compact Computer, big companies in human resources. That's what my PhD is in human resource management.
Okay.
And I went to Texas Tech for my master's and Texas A&M for my PhD. And all the time we were in Texas, we just kept going to wine tastings. And especially in Houston, there were lots of restaurants that were doing incredible wine dinners at the time and wine shops that were doing wine classes. And then every vacation we'd go to, France or Italy or Spain and taste wine. In California, pretty much every year. We were always coming back to Napa and Sonoma. And then we started going to other parts of California as well, the Sierra Foothills and Paso Robles and, Monterey, all those wine areas. And so it just was a hobby for a really long time. And I have to admit, I read Wine Spectator religiously every single month. I waited for my magazine to come because there wasn't that much in those days to read, remember? And I still love Wine Spectator to this day. And then finally, we moved to Colorado, got into the Colorado wine industry. That's another thing I like to do. I'm digressing, but I like to every year go to a different state to check out their wine industry because all 50 states have wine. So anyway, so then finally got this job in Sonoma State University in the year 2000. Came back to California, and I was so excited about the job because they wanted PhD, human resource management with experience in industry. But then it said on the job announcement, plus has a background and interest in wine. And I was like, yes, that's me. That job has my name on it. And so when I got here, they asked me to teach the introduction to wine business class. And so I started taking all the classes at the junior college on viticulture so I can plant my hobby vineyard. And I took winemaking classes. I took weekend classes at UC Davis so I could make wine in my garage. And I still do all that. And
So you've been doing that for like 2 decades.
Yeah. Well, yeah, since I planted the vineyard in 2002, and then it took a couple of years for
3 or
it
4
to come
years
online. Yeah, and it's Pinot Noir because I live in the Petaluma Gap. It wasn't the Petaluma Gap; it was Sonoma Coast when I first moved there. But
That's right. That's when I first started working with fruit out there, and it was all
Yeah.
Sonoma Coast. And
Yeah.
then the Petaluma Gap was
Wonderful.
one of my favorite areas
yeah,
for Pinot.
yeah. And I actually was on the committee that helped make that happen.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I'm still on the
Nice.
board as sort of an advisory member on the Petaluma Gap Wine
And
Growers Alliance.
you're making Pinot Noir and Rosé.
Uh-huh.
What's your split? How much of each do you make?
Well, for years we were just making like 2 or 3. I mean, it's a tiny vineyard. I have 120 vines, Each vine has a name.
I was going to ask.
And so I make about 100 and let's see. I make about 120 bottles every year. And I
Okay.
give half of it away and drink some of it.
So for
And,
everybody that's not
yeah.
a mathematician out there, that's one bottle per
Per
vine.
vine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Thank
my
you.
vineyard is completely naturally organic. It's naturally regenerative because I've never tilled it because I don't have a tiller, and and I just use sulfur to spray for powdery mildew, and so it makes beautiful wine. I mean, Pinot Noir just loves Sonoma Coast, it loves Petaluma Gap, and it does well there. So I make about 2 cases. I was always making 2 cases of rosé and 10 cases of Pinot Noir,
Okay.
red. And then we just started discovering we just kept drinking all the rosé. The rosé would just, so I decided to make more rosé.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, the instant gratification of having a rosé.
Yeah, because the Pinot, to tell you the truth, my Pinot needs a couple of years to age. It really does. I've discovered when I go back and taste some of the older bottles, they're delicious.
So the farming aspect, since you understand the industry through and through, right? From soil to marketplace.
Well, being an MW, you have
Yeah.
to learn all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
But just the I think that so many people don't understand the part of the industry involving farming, where you had mentioned all you use is sulfur. Maybe if you have like a thrip problem, you have to use stylet oil or something
Yeah.
like that.
I
But
use the organic style.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So there are, I think people think that we're heavy into using like high grade chemicals and whatever else. And what I've always tried to stress to people is that not only is that, not worth doing, it's inefficient and very costly. But these chemical companies, I mean, if you just let them run the way they want to run, they'll just deliver you a spray program every 2 weeks. And it's like, I've seen that conventional farming method and it doesn't benefit the vineyard at all. And it makes it way more inefficient. It's like if you're reacting to a problem, then you're minimizing your passes, you're being more efficient, you're being more cost sensitive and whatnot. But I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think they just think that we're throwing everything we can at it to make this perfect fruit. And it's like, no, you actually want to just let it go
Exactly.
and develop on its own unless you have an issue and then you react.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the French sort of call that lutte raisonnée. You use rational farming. You don't put anything on the vines unless there's a reason to do so. Yeah, and that's sort of what sustainability is about too. It's one aspect of it. But for years, my husband was, well, not for years. Then I stopped him, but he was putting Roundup around the vines, and so we didn't have weeds. And then I went and worked in Burgundy for a semester, and I saw the way those vineyards were being farmed, and I just decided. I came home and I said, we're not doing Roundup anymore. And it didn't make that, and now we have to weed eat, yeah. But, it didn't make that much difference. Because I started thinking, we're drinking this wine, we're giving it to our friends and families. We just really want to I want it to be as natural as possible, especially after working in Burgundy. I lived right next to, I had a little house next to Domaine Romanée-Conti. So every day I would walk in those vineyards, those amazing vineyards.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was. And they're all biodynamic vineyards, but... So I don't do biodynamics, but and what I discovered is the grapes are fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
And every few years I actually will buy some manure and put that around the vines, but they're pretty naturally and they take care of themselves.
Well, vines are, if you're not trying to grow a vine, they're a very noxious weed.
Yeah.
Like they are hard to kill and get
They
rid
are.
of. They want to grow.
They do.
You just had me thinking about something. Has anybody invented like a, Roomba for
That's a good idea.
for just keeping your grass?
There's a new
Wow.
product. There's a new product idea.
This happens
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
Like new
yeah.
inventions
I
just
mean,
pop up on
yeah.
here.
But with
Can
the
we-
technology
there's-
we have nowadays, it's just going to be a larger Roomba with like a mower,
Right.
Right, and it just goes through your vineyard, recharges itself, and then
Yeah. I could even see it hovering
Love it.
over the ground a little bit.
yeah.
I don't know. It'd be so cool. Yeah.
Okay.
God damn it!
All right, we're starting a business. No, let's do this right now. I just want in. You guys are, you're the brains of the project, and
We,
maybe
we
I
are
just advertise
we
it.
are starting to see some of the early renditions of robots in the vineyard.
Yeah.
Those
I've
are
seen
just
some of the-
starting. Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of those are coming out of Germany. The Germans are designing them, and they're pretty efficient.
I think they're getting better and better.
Mhm.
It's been a multi-step process to get to where we're at today. But even the technology we've seen with, onboard sorting with machine harvesting.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's like from when I started and I saw those machines running, it was like, oh, you're going to ruin half this vineyard.
Yeah.
And now you watch it and you're like, you can go direct to your tank. It's
I know,
like clean.
it's
You're leaving all your
pretty
debris in the field.
amazing. I know.
Have you seen any of the ones that are very human-like though? Digging ditches and stuff like that.
I have not seen
No.
Yeah, it's out there. You could check it. It's kind of scary. Art knows about it. He follows these
Really?
robots and stuff like that. Oh yeah, they're doing. Well, they have
Oh,
robots
yeah.
right now that can they're trying to use them for like fighters. So I'm like really into like UFC. So they're
there's
punching
one.
and grabbing. That's not so
Yeah.
much human like.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Those are the kind I've sort of seen in
Yeah.
the vineyard. Even smaller. I've seen some smaller ones.
But
Yeah.
this is where this is kind of if you watch Terminator, I'm just kind
Yeah,
of saying
yeah.
like this is kind of where it
They
all started.
say
You guys. We
that's
need to be
they
careful.
say that's where we might be going there. Exactly.
We might be good. I mean, if
Mm.
you ask Elon Musk, he's like, we've already gone past the point of no return
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with AI and robots.
yeah.
So yeah,
They start building themselves, and then they're like, "We don't really want to work anymore. We kind of feel like we could run."
They're looking at us. They're like,
Something to
you
think
guys
about.
are parasites on this world. We're taking it over.
You're not smart. like this, see?
Oh.
These type. This is what I was talking about.
I
It's
think a lot of
pretty
people
close.
think
You
of
can get
AI
it.
and robotics as like a humanoid robot, right? But like
Yeah.
in reality, it's really what is the application for the robotics that you're using?
Look at this right now. He's basically could be. That's
He's vacuuming.
yeah. Oh, watch this
No.
jumping. See?
Yeah.
Boom.
Boston Dynamics, if you watch their
Yeah.
every year how far they've come from the last 20 or 25 years, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this will be something real in our lifetime that is assisting us in some way, shape, or form. For hopefully, I mean, farming would be great. Like right now, I think we're still at this point where a lot of the machinery that we're able to utilize does cut out a good portion of the labor, the unskilled part of the labor. So take pre-pruning as an example, right?
Yeah.
Great, you can go through and get, you're going to reduce injury because you're cutting out all your debris from the wires, which is, eye injuries, strains in muscles, whatever else. But then you go through and do
Do
your
the actual
hand pass and
pruning, yeah.
really dial it in perfectly.
Yeah.
So at some point, I do think that robots are going to be able to do a perfect pruning pass. We're working 24 hours until they decide that we are going to be their slaves, and then they're going to beat the crap out of us.
That's
But you
true.
know,
Look-
there's something beautiful about pruning a vine.
Yeah.
It's like I used to sort of get into a Zen meditative state because you're like, it's like almost sculpture. You're sculpting the vine
Yeah.
to help it, perform and be beautiful the following year. And yeah, it's work. I have to admit, I was never a fast pruner. I would have not won any pruning competitions, but I didn't need to. I just would be out there just sort of, zoning out and enjoying being in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trying not to step on snakes and
So
gophers.
what is your favorite practice in the vineyard, in your vineyard?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Pruning is one of them in the springtime. I usually do it in January, February, and all the wildflowers are starting to be out. The mustard and the California orange poppies. Let's see, what is the and harvest is fun, but harvest is a lot of work. People don't realize how much work it is to
I think
harvest grapes.
No, people don't realize it.
Until you've actually
I'm quite
done
tired
it,
right
how
now.
dirty it is. There's spiders. You have to,
Yeah.
just have to be, all these things are, I have my neighbors and friends and some of my former students come and help. And they would be like, wow, there's like spider in that vat. I'm like, yeah, it's okay.
It's protein.
It can stay there.
Yeah.
The wine is going to turn itself into alcohol, and it's going to, eventually, the spider's going to either jump out or he's going to be part of the wine,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
Everything gets filtered out to some degree or settled out.
Yeah.
And I
What-
think about
what-
when also like the blood, sweat, and tears that come in with environmental things. Because obviously here in Napa Valley, it's not just like sometimes doing harvest. It's doing harvest when there's fires. It's doing harvest when
Oh,
there was
yeah.
like
Yeah.
a pandemic.
that-
like there's
that's
and they're still out
challenging.
there,
Yeah.
with masks on and stuff like that, and get it done. I don't know. I just have like such love for them.
That part's
Yeah.
hard. Yeah, I have to admit the part that I don't like so much is in the springtime when you're suckering and it's all wet and the grasses are really high, at least in my vineyard, and you're trying to go through, and then they grow so fast. It's like, gosh, I just suckered these things, and now I have to go
Yeah.
and I have to hedge them, and they get big and they flop over. Because mine is a hobby vineyard, and so it's like I'm not doing it every day. It's just when I
Yeah.
have time, and So it can be, that part can be a lot of work, and sometimes you need to like take the leaves off, de-leaf for the clusters to show,
Yeah.
or drop a few clusters if you've got too many. So that piece I don't enjoy as much as the other side.
I was gonna
of
say
it.
my least favorite part is leafing.
Leafing, yeah,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's it. And pruning is my favorite.
yeah.
Yeah. You've never pruned a vineyard, have you?
Pruning is an
I pruned with you.
artistic thing.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you remember making fun of me?
Probably.
Like,
Oh, that was you're talking recently. I was thinking
Yeah.
like when we were like 15. Did you ever prune with me when we were kids?
when I was young, I pruned a little bit. I mean,
Okay.
but I didn't do full harvests like you did.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of showed up and like got my badge for like the
Collected
week
a
or something
paycheck.
like that, and then
You did
I
it
had
for
some
you
stuff
did it
to
for like
do.
1 hour and then you
Yeah,
left.
I mean, I was an artist, so I had like other, acting gigs. Why are you shaking your head, Art? I did get my hands dirty.
Again,
This
he's-
isn't about me.
Hey, Art, you want me to say it? He's a fake Mexican.
And pruning takes some intellectual thought, especially if you're doing cane pruning,
Yeah.
versus fir pruning, and you really have to think about, okay, what am I doing that's going to impact this vine and how it's going to grow and how it's going to work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think usually I was like, back to digging holes. I mean, that's kind of like, they gave me like the kind of simple things to do.
That part's not fun.
Or-
I don't like digging holes. I don't like
Those are not
digging
fun.
or like, just pick some clusters, like do the picking of the grapes, stuff like that. But when it came, I think I could do like de-leafing, but not, I think when it came to pruning, that takes
Yeah.
a little bit more.
I have to tell you about my experience harvesting in Burgundy. So, Pinot Noir. So first of all, the vines are really low to the ground,
Yeah.
right? They're only like maybe about 3 feet high. So you have to bend. You either have to
Did you have
bend
the
all the
backpack
way
thing
over.
on, too?
No, somebody else had that. I had
Okay.
a bucket, and I went out with a crew of. They bring most of their workers are from Poland and Romania. And then there's a few, people like us from, different wineries who are interns or whatever. And so I only lasted 2 days. I thought I was going to die. So I was just there to experience it, but I lasted more than 1 hour. But anyway, so I get there. They do it during the day, not at night like we do here, 7 in the morning till 5 with lots of nice breaks. And all of the people who come in to harvest, they come in every single year. And I was with a group of people from Poland. They were so much fun. And the wineries there, by law, have to give them housing, have to feed them 3 meals a day. And their pay is based on whether they stay in the house or if they want to bring their tent, they can camp out. They have to give them a camping place. They have to give them showers. The government controls that. And they have helicopters flying overhead to count people to make sure that you have everybody who is supposed to be in the. It was pretty amazing.
I've never heard this.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme.
Like, what year was this? Was this recently?
2016.
Yeah, so recent.
Yeah. No, the French government is very concerned about workers being treated well, which is great. That part's great. And the workers loved it. For them, they'd come every year. They do the same fields. It was like a vacation for them.
Yeah.
And so you start at 7 in the morning, you get your bucket, and you go out and you're given your row of vines. And so you have to either bend all the way over or you have to squat down, hunch down, on your knees. And so I'd go back and forth. So if you bend over, then your back's killing you. If you squat down, then your thighs are burning. And so I'd be going back and forth. And the vines don't even have that much, Pinot on them because they're so tiny. They have just a few clusters.
Yeah.
And then the guy with the basket on his back comes by and you dump your bucket into there. And then he takes it to the tractor and the bigger boxes. But then the best part is at 9:30, they call a break. So you go over to the tractor where all the grapes are, and they pull out, I kid you not, a huge box full of French bread with brie, those long baguette sandwiches, and bottles and bottles of wine that are unlabeled. And so I'm standing there, I have my little brie and my, with my crusty French bread, and then the bottle comes to me, and they're literally, all these people are just swigging out of the bottle at 9:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking, well, why in Rome, right? Why in Burgundy? Why not? So it was my turn. I had a big swig, and we could pass it around. And so then at 10 o'clock, it was time to go back and harvest again. So we did that till noon, and then it was lunchtime. Guess what happens at lunch?
More wine.
Big tables of food and more wine. And then you're out in the afternoon, and then you end at 5. And then huge, you take a nap, and then big dinners that evening. And the owners of all the domains are cooking food. A lot of times it's the mom and, her friends who are cooking these big meals.
That sounds like a ton of fun.
It was,
Yeah.
but I only lasted 2 days because I was so sore. I was really sore.
So I heard that in Champagne, the tradition was, I don't know if it still holds true, was that for every worker in every facet of producing champagne, whether you're in the vineyard or you're in the winery or accounting, whatever, it's 1 bottle of champagne per day per employee.
I don't know if that's true, but it sounds
Per
good.
day?
Per day.
Sounds good.
Are you supposed to finish it? Like, is that like is it a requirement?
Do they just get it at the end of the day, or you're talking about through the whole day?
Yeah.
No, like at the end of the day, I think
the
that
end of
everybody
the day,
gets
yeah.
1 bottle of wine to like bring a bottle of champagne to bring home to enjoy.
That sounds like a nice custom to me.
I know.
I'm liking that.
But I'm thinking like that sounds really expensive too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, even if 10 employees, you're like, oh, that's a lot of wine for a week.
Everyone out there with like a little satchel or
It
something.
sounds like
They got
it's
their-
worth it,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yeah,
Well, the Swiss Army, right? The Swiss Army knife, it's got a bottle opener
yeah.
because they had rations of wine given to them. Well, almost all European countries, as far as I know.
Yeah, well,
were rations of
you heard
wine
about the Roman
more.
soldiers. They every single day, they got 2 liters. I think 2 liters were their rations back then.
Wow.
Yeah. But then keep in mind the water wasn't safe to drink.
Yeah.
So
Hydrating with wine.
Yeah, and the wine, I don't think the wine wasn't as high alcohol.
Yeah.
I was just in Champagne last week, and there's delicious grower champagne. They call it Farmer's Fizz, some people, and it's the local growers are making it, and it's not that expensive. Like you can go into some of the shops there and buy some really good stuff for like 15 euros that here would cost 35 or 40.
I just think it's so amazing, Liz. You're such a cosmopolitan, like so worldly. Because I was like so impressed that you've been to 78 countries.
Yep,
Man.
and counting. Yep.
Yes. So that's almost like 40% of all the countries in the world. So I mean, you're really
Done
getting
your
up
homework.
there.
He does his homework.
And there's probably
Just trying to impress you, Professor.
I'm impressed.
there's probably 40% that you don't want to go to.
Okay. And that's
So you
for another
started at the top. You started at the top. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I was curious, like with your travels, you've mentioned France a lot. Do you have any other favorites?
Looks like the end. Find out next week.